Right, where are we? Yes, we're going to turn our attention now to Bruno Fernandes.
The Premier League has faced pressing machines, possession kings, and tactical systems designed to suffocate creativity. But it still hasn't solved Bruno Fernandes.
How impressed are you with Bruno Fernandes?
He's an exceptional player, especially the consistency to play every single game and every single competitions. I admire a lot of that.
Since arriving from Sporting CP, he has produced elite numbers in a Manchester United side that has rarely been elite itself.
More magic. Bruno Fernandes!
Goals, assists, chances created, season after season, while the system around him keeps changing. Managers change, structures collapse, roles shift. Bruno stays productive. He has fought statistically with Kevin De Bruyne without the same platform.
We've gone Bruno number one. Why have we gone Bruno number one? Is that output related?
I think he's a creative machine.
He has led chance creation while playing deeper than most number 10s ever should. He has been pushed into defensive midfield under Ruben Amorim, taken further from goal and still bent games to his will. And now, back in his natural position, he's once again leading the league in assists and chances created. This isn't about hype, it's about a player the league keeps misreading. Because when a midfielder thrives in chaos, survives tactical misuse and still dominates once restored to his best role, that's not a Manchester United problem anymore. That's a Premier League problem. This is exactly why Bruno Fernandes is still unsolved and why stopping him might be harder than ever.
Captain,
leader, special.
say magician.
2 words, world class.
If you want to understand why the Premier League has a genuine Bruno Fernandes problem, you don't start with endless debates about playing style, temperament, or whether he shows up in big moments. You start with one simple, uncomfortable question. How does a midfielder keep producing elite output across different leagues, different tactical roles, and different levels of team stability around him? Because Bruno's story isn't built on one magical peak season where everything clicked perfectly. It's built on a relentless pattern that the league keeps failing to interrupt, no matter what it throws at him. When Bruno joined Sporting CP back in June 2017, reported at around €8.5 million plus bonuses, he didn't slowly grow into Portuguese football or need time to adapt. He absolutely hit the league running. 4 goals in his first 5 Primeira Liga games. By the end of that very first Sporting season, the numbers already looked like a top forward's output, not a midfielder's. 16 goals across all competitions, 20 assists, Primeira Liga Player of the Year. So before England even comes into the picture, before anyone in the Premier League is paying attention, Bruno is already showing you exactly what his game really is. A midfielder who lives in end product, who measures himself by goals and assists, not just tidy passing statistics. Then the 2018/19 season takes it from genuinely impressive to absolutely ridiculous. He broke Sporting's long-standing club record for goals by a midfielder in a single season and finished that campaign with 33 goals across all competitions, while still operating primarily as a midfielder, not a forward. He also won Primeira Liga Player of the Year again, back-to-back. This matters enormously because it completely kills the lazy idea that Bruno's numbers are just Premier League inflation or United-specific freedom, where he's given unlimited license. The truth is actually much simpler. Bruno arrived in England with an already proven identity firmly established, a midfielder whose baseline expectation is goals plus creation at an elite level. And Manchester United basically confirmed that exact profile when they announced his signing in January 2020, specifically noting his Sporting output as 63 goals and 52 assists in 137 games total. This is exactly where the Premier League problem genuinely starts, because most players, even talented ones, need adaptation time when they arrive mid-season. Bruno absolutely didn't. In the half-season after he arrived in January 2020, he played just 14 Premier League matches and still somehow posted 8 goals and 7 assists. That's 15 direct goal contributions in 14 games. From a midfielder joining a new league mid-season with no pre-season, no full preparation. Then came 2020/21, the season that permanently stamps his status as a genuine league-level headache for opponents. He finished that campaign with 18 goals and and 12 assists in the Premier League alone. And here's the key detail that matters most. He's doing all of this inside a Manchester United team that, year after year, keeps dramatically changing shape, changing identity, changing managers, changing levels of reliability. Yet somehow his individual output consistently stays at the absolute top end of the league. Goals and assists can sometimes be debated or dismissed as luck or circumstance. Chance creation is significantly harder to argue with. Across recent seasons, Bruno has repeatedly sat at, or very near the top of Premier League chance creation leaderboards, with the league itself highlighting him as a set-piece-driven chance creation machine early in the 2025/26 season. And this current season specifically, he is leading the entire Premier League for assists, 10 chances created. That's the problem captured in one simple sentence. Even when the entire league knows the ball is going through him, even when opponents specifically prepare to stop him, he still manages to manufacture chances at an elite scale. Because the genuinely scary part isn't just that Bruno is a great number 10 or an excellent playmaker. It's that even before we get into the tactical details and role changes he's endured, the timeline already clearly shows something genuinely unusual. He became Player of the Year in Portugal immediately upon arrival. He became the highest-scoring midfielder in serious European conversation. He landed in England mid-season and instantly produced elite output without any adjustment period. And by 2025/26, he's still sitting comfortably on top of the assists and chance creation charts. So when we move into the next chapter, examining his positional misuse and those frustrating periods where he's been dragged deeper into midfield roles that don't suit him, we're not asking the question, can he still be good? We're asking the real Premier League question that nobody seems to have an answer for. What do you actually do with a player whose numbers survive absolutely everything the league throws at him? Here's where the Bruno Fernandes problem becomes so much more than just impressive raw numbers. Because the Premier League hasn't just had to face Bruno, the classic number 10, the version that lives between the lines, receives the ball in pockets, and hurts you near the box. It's had to deal with something genuinely worse. Bruno, the adaptable weapon. A player who's good enough to be actively misused by his own team and still completely dominate. Under Ruben Amorim, Manchester United leaned heavily into a 3-4-2-1 structure with a two-man double pivot sitting in midfield that often left the centre exposed and asked an enormous amount from whoever was playing centrally. Tactical analysis at the time pointed directly at that specific midfield issue, opponents repeatedly targeting numerical overloads against the double pivot, and United visibly struggling for proper protection in front of the defence. And in that difficult period, Amorim made a controversial tactical choice that seemed simple on paper. Bruno Fernandes was repeatedly pulled deeper into midfield, sometimes functioning much less like a traditional 10 and more like an 8, even sharing core central midfield duties alongside Casemiro. Why would you do that to your most productive, creative player? Because tactically, it allowed Amorim to fit more pure frontline attacking profiles ahead of Bruno. Observers noted that using Bruno in a deeper role made room to field a stronger, more direct attacking trident up front, with Bruno supplying them from deeper build-up positions rather than only operating in the final third himself. So structurally, it genuinely makes sense on a tactical whiteboard. But here's the critical point of this entire chapter. A deeper Bruno should mean significantly fewer decisive actions near the opposition goal, fewer assists, fewer final passes, fewer game-breaking moments in dangerous areas. Instead, somehow the complete opposite happened. Early in the 2025/26 season, statistical roundups showed Bruno sitting right at the top of the overall chances created list once set pieces were properly included in the data. And later season tracking shows the exact same theme, just even louder and more undeniable. Bruno sits first in the entire league for both assists and total chances created. That's the problem opponents face, because it means the league can't rely on the usual tactical solution of simply push him further from goal and limit his influence. He'll just start creating dangerous chances from those earlier phases of play instead. Moving Bruno away from that natural number 10 space fundamentally changes three important things. His receiving. Zones shift much further from the opponent's box. His risk profile changes significantly. More touches in build-up phases phases, more potential turnovers if pressed aggressively. His physical running load increases dramatically. You're asking him to be connector, presser, and primary creator all at once. In most cases, with most players, that combination absolutely destroys their output and effectiveness. But Bruno's specific skill set is somehow built for survival in exactly that role. He can hit accurate final third passes from deeper, more difficult angles. He can create genuine danger through set pieces and second phase situations. And he plays fast enough mentally to release the ball before the pressure fully lands on him. That's exactly why, even when he isn't stationed in his natural position as a classic 10, the league still ends up facing the same frustrating outcome. The dangerous chance arrives anyway. There were reports and interviews during Amorim's time in charge where Bruno spoke relatively openly about playing deeper, essentially acknowledging the role adjustment, the idea being that everyone has positional preferences, but the team's structural needs ultimately dictate individual responsibilities. That matters because it tells you this wasn't accidental or imaginary criticism. This was a genuine, deliberate tactical decision from the coaching staff. Consciously sacrifice Bruno's natural final third home, where he's most dangerous, and trust him to still deliver elite end product anyway from less favourable positions. By this point in the season, Premier League teams basically had two tactical options when facing United, and neither one fully works. Option 1, mark him aggressively high up the pitch and try to deny the first pass into him completely. Result, he just drops even deeper to get involved in build-up anyway, and you've wasted defensive resources. Option 2, let him have the ball in deeper areas and focus on protecting the box with numbers. Result, he turns possession into a dangerous set piece and kills you that way, or finds a runner early with one incisive pass. And because he keeps creating at an elite level regardless, the league ends up trapped in this weird, frustrating loop. You can force Bruno away from his absolute best position on the pitch, but you can't actually force him away from having decisive influence on matches, which leads us directly into the next chapter, the part that makes this documentary title feel genuinely real. Because once Amorim was gone and United started restoring Bruno closer to goal in his natural position, his output didn't just remain at that elite level, it got even sharper. Michael Carrick's biggest change isn't motivational, it's structural. He looked at Manchester United and said, "Enough experiments, put the best players back where they hurt teams." And nobody benefits more than Bruno Fernandes. In Carrick's first 2 league games, the evidence is already there. 2-0 over City in the derby, then 3-2 away at Arsenal, United's first league win at the Emirates since 2017. And in both matches, the shape is clear. Carrick's leaning into a 4-2-3-1, with Bruno restored as the central connector, the number 10 with permission to roam. Carrick's setup looks simple on paper, but it does 2 things at once. Defend compactly without chasing everything. Break you with combinations in the half spaces. Against City, United were comfortable without the ball, stayed tight, limited City centrally, picked their moments to jump. City's shot volume and expected goals were kept extremely low. That matters because it changes Bruno's reality under Carrick. Bruno doesn't have to play firefighter midfielder to keep the team stable anymore. The structure does the stabilizing, so Bruno can go back to doing damage. Tactical observers have noted United's out-of-possession shape as a narrow 4-5-1, with Bruno dropping into the midfield line when defending, rather than being stranded up top. So the team stays compact, but Bruno still stays central to the transition. That's the balance. One of the biggest patterns already emerging is the right side triangle. Bruno plus Brian Mbeumo plus Amad Diallo. Match analysts pointed to how this combination caused Arsenal problems. Bruno roaming from the 10 space, Mbeumo drifting cleverly, Amad holding width or pinning depending on the moment. This is what makes Carrick's Bruno feel like a nightmare. If the opposition fullback steps out to stop the winger, Bruno receives inside. If they hold their line to block Bruno, the winger gets time to turn. If they send a midfielder to sit on Bruno, the double pivot finds the spare man and plays through. It's not just Bruno playing 10, it's Bruno being the pivot point of every rotation. Against Arsenal, tactical breakdowns showed Bruno roaming from the 10 position and creating space for Patrick Dorg to attack inside from the left, a key theme in how United got between Arsenal's lines. And this wasn't just theory, it showed up in the goals. Match data notes Bruno's assist involvement and highlights the 1-2 sequence leading into Dorgu's goal. Statistical recaps credit Bruno with an assist and note he remained the focal point, adding shots and created chances throughout. So what you're seeing in Carrick's United, Bruno isn't being carried by the system. The system is being built to multiply his best decisions. Carrick's 4-2-3-1 creates a key advantage for Bruno. Short options plus vertical threats. You can see it in how United attack. The double pivot offers a safe bounce pass. The wide players stretch the back line. The striker pins centre-backs. Bruno operates in the pocket where one touch creates a chance. This is why his creation numbers are so dangerous now. In 2025/26, Bruno sits top for assists and chances created across multiple statistical trackers. His chances per 90 rate is historically strong for a United creator, and in the derby, broadcasters noted he reached 600 chances created in the Premier League, well clear of the next closest creator since his debut in the competition. That's volume creation at a level clubs struggle to plan against, because it isn't one pattern, it's repeated access to dangerous actions. The underappreciated part of Carrick's Bruno is how he reads the next phase. In a compact 4-5-1 defensive shape, Bruno's job isn't to chase like a winger, it's to screen the central pass, block the pivot lane, be the first attacker the moment the ball turns over. That's why Carrick's United can rope-a-dope elite sides, absorb pressure, stay compact, then explode into the space Bruno instantly identifies, something match commentary around the Arsenal win repeatedly highlighted. Under Amorim, Bruno was surviving deeper. Under Carrick, Bruno is positioned to decide games again. And the scary part for the league, we're already seeing it after just 2 matches. If this continues, clubs are going to face a version of Bruno that is closer to goal, surrounded by better spacing, protected by a clearer structure, still producing at league-leading rates. Which leads perfectly into the next question, because now the Premier League has to answer the hardest tactical dilemma. Do you step up to stop Bruno and open space behind you, or do you sit off and let him create 10 chances anyway? So now the picture is clear. This was never about whether Bruno Fernandes is talented. That debate ended years ago. The real issue, the Premier League problem, is that every attempt to neutralize him has failed in a different way. Push him deeper. He becomes a volume creator from build-up and set pieces. Surround him with instability. He still posts elite goals and assists. Change managers, shapes, priorities. The output never collapses. And now, under Michael Carrick, the final layer of protection has been removed. Bruno is no longer compensating for structural gaps. He's no longer firefighting in midfield. He's back where elite creators do the most damage. Between the lines, closer to goal, with runners ahead of him and balance behind him. That's what makes this moment dangerous for the league, because this version of Bruno isn't forcing the game. He's reading it. He's picking when to slow it down, when to speed it up, when to arrive late, when to stay hidden, when to hurt you, with one touch instead of 3. And the numbers are already confirming what your eyes are telling you. Assists rising, chances piling up, influence spreading across every phase of play. For opponents, there's no clean solution left. Step out to stop him and you open lanes behind you. Sit off him and he'll create anyway, patiently, relentlessly, repeatedly. That's why this isn't just a Manchester United storyline anymore. It's a Premier League one, because when a player survives misuse, chaos, tactical shifts, and then becomes even more dangerous once restored to his natural role, the league isn't dealing with form. It's dealing with inevitability. And until someone finds a way to truly limit Bruno Fernandes' influence without breaking their own structure, this problem isn't being solved. It's only getting worse.